Welcome to Breaking Bread with Alie and Gabby. I'm Gabby Loren.
And I'm Alie Valerio.
And today we have Aleeza Ben Shalom on the line. She is known as the marriage-minded mentor. She's also a professional dating coach and an author of Get Real, Get Married, something many of us want to do but seem to find trouble in the process. So we're going to go over how to work on yourself to be your best self in order to find your partner and what to look for in that perfect person for us. So thank you, Aleeza, for joining us on the line.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So what got you into this area of just helping people before they get married and during marriage?
It's so interesting. I think even growing up, I had a fascination with relationships, and I was always watching how people were connecting and, the point of connection, the point of disconnection, and how things were working. And in my 20s, I had kids. In my mid 20s, I got married around 25, and I had kids shortly after, and I was home and I was with children, and all I wanted to do was have children, except I was like, it's not enough. I wanted something more. And I volunteered online as a matchmaker, and I started doing that. And I was like, oh, I like this, but I don't exactly like this. And I used to pick up the phone and I would call people and I would talk to them and I would work with them through the process. And I was like, that's what I like. That's what I do. So it was something different than being a matchmaker, and it developed into this dating and relationship coaching to help people through the process, which I just fell in love with.
Wow. Have you been in the process to see through couples actually getting married? Have you connected people?
Yes. So I've been doing this for over a decade and have helped, I don't know, hundreds of singles through the process. Some one-on-one, we work together and I coach with them. Other people have said, I read your book, and by the way, I'm engaged. And they reached out to tell me, they're like, I was going to call you to get your advice, but I just followed what you said and it worked. So some people I help, in person and or through the phone or video, and other people I'm able to help just through some of my writings and how I connect with them.
Amazing.
So yeah, so we've also seen babies. Like we've seen couples get married, have kids, a couple kids. We've already have, full-blown families with several kids.
Wow. Aleeza, so the dating culture is very interesting right now, especially because of social media and because we have so many different dating apps. What is going on in the dating culture according to your experience, and what can we do to kind of curate our own experiences so that we're actually getting what we want versus a lot of people are like, oh, there's no good men out there, or people are so picky because there's so many options with social media and different apps. So what is going on in the dating world, and what can we do to actually attract what we want?
Awesome question. So what what to do about it is a little bit difficult, because it's like, well, what should you do about it, or what should you do about it? It might be two different things. And I first want to address that being picky is actually a really fabulous thing, right? Could you imagine, right? Yay!
Finally, somebody
Yes!
said it.
But let me tell you what it is. Basically, being picky means that you have preferences. Hooray! Of course you should have preferences. If you don't know what's good for you and you don't know what you want, who else is going to know? Me? I should tell you what you should want. Family members, friends, they should tell you what you should want. You should actually know what you want. You should be in touch with it, and then you should go and look for it. And anybody else who went to look for what they were looking for, it was their preferences. They were also picky, right? They just forget because it was so many years ago. So first of all, you have my 100% permission, like, please be picky, which really means please know what your preferences are and try to look for it. Now, if it's not good for you, so then we've got to you should go the therapy route and get help. Don't look for something that's not good for you. If it is good for you and you're not finding it and you're like, Aleeza, nothing, I find nothing wherever I go, then we need to evaluate what you want, what's in your mind, and what's in your reality, what's in front of you. So are you just not meeting the right people because you're not going through the right avenues, or you're not meeting the right people because what you want is this lovely dream, and we can't just build them out of clay and make our magic person. So we do have to do a little bit of that evaluation process, and that's what I do when I coach with people. But really what I hear you asking is like, but what do we do about it? Like, where would we find this person, even if we know what we want? And I mean, today, right now, the answer is online. That's where everybody's starting, because if we were meeting in person, we'd be like this with our masks on and we'd be totally covered up. And even people who are meeting online and then do meet in person are still standing 6 feet apart and wearing their masks. But even when we talk about online, there's, besides the normal routes like online websites, online apps, you have all of the social media groups. So like, I know there's Facebook, there's like Corona Crush, and there's, you know, like my whatever, right? All these things that are happening right now. And so those are great places to meet people. And then there's also curated speed dating, matchmaking events that used to be live, and now people are doing it nationally and internationally because, you know, that's what we're left with. So there's like tons of options. And there's a bunch of people who have told me, Aleeza, I would have never gone to an event in person, but I am now going to this event online, and I wouldn't have showed up there. And people are saying I'm seeing higher quality and different people online than I usually see at in-person events. So I think it's a fantastic time to be dating.
Wow. Why do you think that is? Why are people noticing that they're seeing higher quality online now as opposed to prior?
I think a lot of people were too busy to be dating. I think there's a whole pool of people that were like, I do want to find my person, but like, I'm not in such a rush. If and when I meet them naturally and through the course of my life, fine, but I'm not going to go out of my way to find them, or I'm busy with work or other things are going on in my life. And right now, everybody's in this new headspace of, okay, if you're not an essential worker, I'm not so busy with work. If you are out of your office, my hours are a little bit more flexible. I've got more time on my hands. I can actually do some more Zoom things. And anybody who's living alone, the aloneness is really getting to them. And they're like, oh, wow. And people are having these deep realizations that right now, what do I want? Do I want to be alone? Do I want a partner? Wait, if I want a life partner, I need to do something about that now. They're like so motivated. Like, I shouldn't wait another second. I don't want to let another moment go by.
Interesting. In the past, did you notice that online dating could have hindered dating? Was there, with the swipe left, right mentality, could that have possibly made it worse for people that were looking for serious relationships?
Yes. Exactly what you're talking about is what people struggled with. It was like so many options, yes, no, maybe, and then you go to meet somebody in person and you're like, well, I met 5 people online. I mean, I'm going to pursue that also, and I'll pursue this. And it was like option heaven. And there wasn't such an aloneness. If I felt alone, I went to an event, or I went out with my friends for a cup of coffee, or I was busy with business and work, so I just wasn't hyper focused on my dating and relationship life. And now it's like, wait, I'm not so busy with so many other things. And wait, I can't even go in person. Forget about events. I can't even go see my friend. And oh my gosh, like, yeah, there's all these options, but I only want the person for me. Like, I'm done with this dating or casual get to know you culture. And actually, I want my person. Like, who would I want to be quarantined with is a question people are thinking about. And so I think people are at a deeper state of consciousness in their dating and in their relationship looking.
So you actually think that this is a better time for people to start dating because they can now truly focus on what they want. So can you? Yeah, no, and that's.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, and like, it's difficult, like if you meet from one side of the country and I'm on the other side of the country, we are not seeing each other for I don't know how long. It might be extremely difficult, but in terms of the depth of the potential for the relationship, I think that that's a much stronger thing right now.
So my follow-up question to that is, what should people be looking for when they're starting to date? Like, can you take me kind of through maybe a coaching process that you would take someone through if they were like, Aleeza, like, I think I'm ready to start dating seriously. What kind of questions would you ask me to start getting me thinking about what I really want? Because I think a lot of people are confused about what they truly, truly want.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a whole group of people they're like, I have an idea of what I want, but maybe I haven't said it out loud, or I haven't written it down, or for some people they've written it down, but they haven't organized the list. So I love people to do a brain dump, like get pen and paper or computer if you want, and give me everything that's in your mind. Give me your real list, like the list that you don't tell, that you have never told to anybody, because to have the nuances and the details of what you're actually looking for would probably make you sound crazy. I had one girl, she did this brain dump and she's like, Aleeza, is it a problem? I have 4 pages. And I was like, no, No, not a
Yeah.
problem. Most people are like, make your top 3, make your top 10. Like they give you like a limit, right? No holds bar, no limit. Get everything out of your brain, get it out of your heart, get it onto paper. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want, put it down. And then let's see what's a need, what's a preference, what's a desire, what's a must have, what's a value. Then let's evaluate what's there, but don't prejudge the list. Don't chop it down before we actually get it out, because you're going to always feel like something's missing from a relationship. I have people, they come to me and they're like in the middle of a relationship and they're like, but it's good. But I mean, and then they like can't figure out there's something that's bothering them. And it's because it wasn't on their top 3 or their top 10. And somebody told them that it's not important. And it's bothering them in the back of their mind and they can't even move this relationship ahead. And if we would have actually processed that, they would be able to say, oh, but they're not this. I mean, that's kind of far down on my list and it was important to me. Wait, let me evaluate it. And then it just calms their brain down and they feel like, okay, I knew what I wanted, but the reality of who's in front of me is a little bit different from that. Can I accept that or can I accept that? But you can't do that if you don't have your list. So I love to do a brain dump and get everything out and then really hyper focus on values and what's really important to a person.
I love that. It's like manifesting your goals and your dreams in life, which is what Gabby and I have talked about so many times. Like if you don't put it out there, especially on a piece of paper, and then try to organize the thoughts after without judging them, then you're just going to kind of get whatever's coming to you, which is I think what a lot of people are experiencing on a daily basis. Like I have a lot of single friends that are like, there's no good men out there. Like guys are like, there's no good girls, or like, it's just all these limiting beliefs about dating. Yeah.
Right. Everybody says, oh, all the good ones are taken. I was like, oh, sure. All the good ones are taken. And then there's nothing left for the rest of the world. Like, no, it's not true. Your person is out there. They exist. They're looking for you also. And don't worry, they're not good. They're great.
I
Love
like
that.
Gabby, do you have a list?
In my mind, I have a list. I can't say I've written it down physically. Probably something I should do. But it's funny you say all this about wanting to find exactly what you're looking for and writing it down, because a lot of people might tell you, well, no, there's no perfect relationship, so you're not going to get everything you want. And
True.
you should just...
It's true.
Yeah, and I think there is truth to that, but at the same time, like you also shouldn't settle and be in a situation where you might not be happy for the rest of your life. So where do you draw the line between all these things that are important to you, between values and intellectualness and your emotional connection and the physical, and at what point, like at what percentage of it is it enough in that other person?
There is a great book that's called The Case for Marrying Mr. Good Enough or something like that. And it goes through this, and it was an older single that was dealing with this, in her 30s and trying to figure out, wait, what am I really looking for? So yes, we want to do our whole brain dump. We want to put everything out there. And that's really our ideal. That's like in our head, in our heart. It's something that we envision, but it's not our reality. It's not a human being who's in front of us. So once we do get to the evaluation process, we have to realize that there's somebody that is perfect for us, not perfect, but perfect just for us, just for what our needs are. And it's not necessarily going to satisfy everything that you want, but it will be what you need in a relationship to help you both be the best that you can be. So the way that I go through the evaluation process is I do like, once you do your whole full brain dump, that you do come up with like a top 10 list of things that you really value in a relationship, that like these are almost become your non-negotiables. Like this, the person has to have these to a degree, not 100% match, but they have to be within a range that you're going to be comfortable with. Because if you don't have at least your top 10, forget about what's 20 or 50 on the list. If you can't even get the top things satisfied, you're going to feel something seriously missing from your relationship. So the evaluation process, I like to narrow down the top 10 things that you value, and then we really have to rank, to what degree I want this. Do I need it like a 10, or is it like, okay, I need it, but it's like an 8, a 7. It's important, but it's not a 10 to me. And then we have to rank the person that we're with, like, well, how do they match up to what I want? What's my perception of them? Not what's their perception of them, by the way. It's what your perception is of them. And then it's not only about values, because our values might be in line and you still might not be my soulmate because you do things that irritate me that I absolutely can't live with. And if that's the case, even if you seem perfect in the values section, you might flunk the irritant section, because if you do something that bothers me on a daily basis, I can't live with that. Either I have to figure out how not to be irritated, or how to get you to stop doing that, which is not a reality. Usually things that people do, they do more consistently over time, not less. And so those are really like the first two categories. And then there's another two categories, actually. One is fears, which are generic relationship fears that you might have from your past. It could be afraid of divorce, abandonment, afraid of financial instability. It doesn't matter. You could have all sorts of fears, and it has nothing to do with this person, but this person might trigger that in you. And you, like with this person, you feel insecure about the relationship. With this person, you feel totally solid. And that actually has nothing to do with irritants or values. That's just your own fears that they are either confirming or just not even, there's like no friction there between the two of you. And then of course there's bonuses, and bonuses confuse everybody, because everybody's like, oh my gosh, but you know what else is amazing about this relationship? And they're so excited, they're so happy. And then they forget that it's just a bonus. Like it's an add-on. It's the icing on the cake. It's not the cake itself. And you have to have your values and your irritants evaluated before you actually get to those bonuses to just enjoy the relationship.
Wow.
So it's you can see, like, it's really a detailed process.
Aleeza, can you speak a little bit as to self-work and how important that is when you're attracting your ideal mate in your relationships?
Yeah, I think that the process of building a relationship with somebody is something that is ever evolving. And so if you are not somebody who's growth oriented or into working on yourself, you might not be into working on your relationship. And that's not really a model for a working or a healthy relationship. So it's really important that somebody do their best to be open-minded to doing personal work and seeing that like what you put in, you're going to get out, right? So if I put more into me, I'm going to get more out of me. If I put more into our relationship, we are going to get more out of our relationship. And it's not just, oh, well, I always do the work, I'm always the one, and so you never make the effort. And it doesn't really work like that. If I make the effort, my partner might make the effort because I'm making the effort, and they might not be able to do it first, but that's what a relationship's about. Sometimes you count on me to do it, and sometimes you do it, and we pull each other together through the process. So I see it as an integral part of the relationship process, being growth oriented and working on ourselves constantly for the rest of our lives.
Now, we talk about this a lot with people in our organization and friends, but what are some of the biggest problems you notice with young people or people today pre-marriage? What are the things you think we need to work on, whether it's like character development or something else that's going on? What are you seeing most of?
It's a good question. I think with young people, something that's happening today is that they are very self-absorbed, right? Like we're always doing selfies, and we're always like, we're all centered about the self, and we're not always learning how to communicate with others, right? Like we're texting, but that's not like real communication. Like sitting down, having a conversation, like we're doing now, like we're connecting, we're asking real questions, we're getting to the bottom of something, and we're working through it. And I think developing relationships is something that's a little bit more difficult because everything is so sped up, which is just a sign of our times. And most things now are virtual and in person. And so we're missing out on so much of the in-person connection that I think it's very difficult for the younger generation to appreciate being in person with somebody so much and really developing that relationship. I think communication is probably one of the biggest issues and it's not just young people. The truth is, people of any age are struggling with this. How do I communicate and connect with you consistently and integrate this virtual and this in-person reality? It's really something that's, I think, like a number one in a relationship.
So what would you tell a client of yours how they can better communicate to create more of a human in-person connection?
so there has to be this fine balance between listening, understanding, hearing. I'm very big on being understood, right? Like, I don't want somebody, like, don't just listen to me. If you just listen to me, that means you sat there, you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, good. But no, get me. Reflect back to me something that I'm saying, or dig in a little bit, and don't just like ping pong and volley a conversation back and forth, and don't just flirt and make it cutie and playful, but actually get what I'm saying. Like, if I'm upset about something, don't fix the problem, find out what the root of the problem is and address that. I might not even need my problem fixed. I might just want you to understand that when things like this happen, that bothers me. But don't fix it today. Just know that, because in general, that's how you know me. So I think having more open communication, a place for curiosity where you can just, like, tell me more about that. What does that look like? What does that mean to you? Like, it sounds like this is important to you, but I don't fully understand it. Like, don't be afraid. You don't have to know everything. Don't be afraid to ask and dig in a little bit more.
What would you say to somebody, let's say, for instance, I think that women are, I don't want to say all women are natural communicators, but we tend to want to understand feelings and emotions a little bit more than a lot of men. And it's hard to get guys to open up sometimes. So what would you do with someone who's like trying to get connected to someone on a deeper emotional level, but let's say the man or the woman is just not really there yet? They don't really know how to get to that deeper level. Would you suggest that they maybe go to therapy? Would you continue to try to keep communicating with them? Is it a hopeless relationship? Do you move on?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I guess, yes, women tend to be natural communicators and connectors. Not all, but a lot of women tend to be that way. And again, majority of men maybe are less good at communication, although men that are in the therapy or the helping field like that, they love communication. So if you're looking for that, by the way, that's just like a little tip.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anyone? Just kidding.
We'll talk. So it's kind of like a dance, like when you get on the dance floor, and like if you make a wrong move, you're stepping on somebody's foot, and you have to get in sync with one another. So for the women of the world, we need to slow down our process. And for the men of the world, they have to work on speeding up their process, and we have to meet somewhere in the middle. And then we're going to volley back and forth between, sometimes we're going to communicate less or not as gracefully, and sometimes we're going to communicate more, and it's going to be like, oh, that's why I'm in this relationship. And I think teaching communication skills to your partner, but informally, meaning as we're connecting, I'm showing you by example what to do. So maybe I'm asking deeper questions, and you're like, oh, that's so interesting. Like, tell me more, right? And then you notice, I don't know, 2 weeks later, they're like, oh yeah, tell me more about that, sweetheart. And you're like, oh, you did it. Like that. Not that you were trying to give over that skill, but you're just leading by example. And I find when you lead by example, other people catch on. It's almost like they say, like through osmosis, like they just get the hint. And it starts to make a little bit more sense, and they start to follow. Now, there's some people that are like way over here in terms of communication and not good communicators, and some people that are way over here that are like hyper communicators. If you're trying to connect those two types of people, it might be more difficult. But when you have people that are somewhere in the middle, you try to just balance it out and bring some new skills to light. Sometimes you can read books, and you could go to therapy, but to me, it's not necessarily a therapy issue. It's more of a skill-based issue. And I think you can get that from reading books. Watching TED Talks are a great way to learn about things like that. People who are like, oh, I'm not into reading books. Like, give me a 5-minute video or 10-minute video and I'll just figure it out. Seeing it by example is usually really helpful.
Now, let's say you're not too far along in the process of dating, like you're not in a serious relationship, you're going on different dates to get to know people. What kind of questions should you be asking on like the initial date? Because I know a lot of women especially are sometimes afraid to ask questions or to find out what, that man's values are, what they're looking for in a future, because they think it's too soon. What would you say to those people? Like, what are the best ways in which to communicate on that first date?
Okay, so I love to break this down into 3 categories. One is past, present, and future. So I wouldn't talk about the future. Like, what are your hopes and dreams, and where do you want to live, and how many kids do you want to have? And like we don't go there. First dates are all about do I like you? Could I look at you? Can we connect? Is there like a little something between us? Like I like you more than I like some other people in the world, or I'm starting to connect and like you in a way that just feels a little bit different, and I want to know more. So I would start with past and present, like stories of how you grew up and where you went to school or camp, or funny, like stories are great because they entertain, they show a little bit about you. It doesn't have to be super vulnerable or personal. It just has to be something that's very generic and just kind of gives them a little bit of a taste of who you are. And what we really want is to just not venture too far beyond into the future. Like stick with the present, like who you are and what you're doing now. You could talk about like your personal hopes and dreams, not related to a relationship, like business hopes and dreams. That's okay. But like all about you, like I want to know you. Tell me more about you, and let somebody in, but not to like the deepest, darkest secrets.
At what point can you get to those deepest, darkest secrets?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I've seen some relationships like zoom ahead, and it's kind of like connect, fireworks, fireworks, fireworks. And it's like, and like as quickly as it sparks, it just dies. Any super fireworky relationship makes me very nervous because they often die as quickly as they started. I would say I like to go past the 5-date mark. I like you enough that I still want to keep talking to you and seeing you, because if after 5, like before 5 dates, I'm kind of giving you a chance. It's like trying on that new outfit and you look in the mirror and you're like, I don't know, maybe, what do you think? Like, oh, well, I mean, it's cheap. So like, I mean, maybe I should just buy it to have it, or, oh, but it's the right color. But I mean, is it the right style? Like you're going through all this processing, and that happens in the beginning. After 5 dates, it's like, yeah, if I don't like you, I'm not sticking around. So there must be something inherently good and connected about you to me. And therefore now we could dig in a little bit further.
Interesting. And then also, in Judaism and like Jewish dating, is there anything you pull from to sort of like encourage your clients or the people that come to you in like dating and the way in which to do it right and to get to that altar quicker?
Okay, so if you want to get there quicker, I'll give you the biggest tip that I have, which is like the biggest hot button for everybody that drives everybody crazy, but it goes like this: hands off for clarity. If you really want to know, not just hands, no kissing, no touching, like just hold the physical back. First of all, if there's a connection between the two of you, it's going to build the chemistry between you. So it's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. And for people that are, because everybody comes from different backgrounds, so you can't just like put a rule out there and be like, okay, so we're never touching until we get married. Great advice, Aleeza. Like we're not going to say that. But what I like to tell people is like to do a 5-date challenge, which is basically like, if I like you enough to go out with you 5 times and I still want to see you a 6th time. Okay, after that, if you choose to introduce touching, okay, but hold off until then, because I don't want to confuse whether I like you because I like you, or I like you because I touched you or you touched me and that made me feel good or comfortable, or I needed that. I needed somebody to do that and you were that person, but I don't need you and I don't actually like you. So if you want to get to a place of clarity sooner, make sure you like the human being on the inside before you engage with the human being on the outside.
I think that's a big one. What do you think about friends dating friends?
I love it. It does sometimes ruin relationships, but I would rather you have a ruined friendship, but a shot at a real relationship, than not to have tried at all. Because if you are that close, you're that close for a reason. You like something about the other person. They like something about you. And if there is potential there, friendships are sometimes the most solid relationships that can be built, because I actually like you as a human being. And we have a romantic component to our relationship and we want to spend more time together. So those to me are the most solid. They're built on the most firm ground. And like, I have the most faith and hope that this is a relationship that's going to last long term, because when things fall out, and you're not romantic and you're just like, you're going to go back to being friends, which is truthfully at the root of what a couple should be. A couple should actually be friends and should be really deeply connected.
How long should one date somebody before they decide to propose and get married? Is there a certain number of dates or a time period?
So, no. With every couple, it's different. So I've worked with secular couples, I've worked with religious couples, I've worked with everybody in between. I have seen people date for 3 dates or 2 weeks and get engaged. I've seen people date for years and years and get married. And it's, there's not really a prescription for success. Like, it really depends on who you are. It really depends on your community. It depends how much your family and everybody else around you can handle the speed of things. Because sometimes a relationship fails because everybody else involved is not, like on board with the whole situation. So something that I find that is ideal is, if you're not sure, date a little bit longer, right? So if you're not sure and you normally only would date 3 months, date 6 months. If you normally would only date 6 months, date 9 months or a year. If you would only date a year, date a little bit longer. Give yourself a little bit longer. But if you're the opposite type of person where, like, you've got to, like, somebody's got to schlep you and drag you down the aisle, don't hold somebody back just because you can't get your thoughts together. Get the support that you need to do that.
It's interesting because we're talking about now religious dating versus secular dating, which is two totally separate things. Like, I just, one of my clients just got engaged over the past week, and like, her family's very religious, so she was feeling a lot of pressure. They met for, like, I think 5 dates, and now they're engaged. But in the secular world, sometimes we are living with our partners for like a few years, and then we're like, wait, this isn't the right relationship, or this is. So can we expound a little bit more on like the time, and maybe talk about the negative things that we should look for in a relationship, where maybe that's a cue, like, maybe this isn't the right relationship for me?
Yeah. So if some people tell me, I had a gut instinct, like I knew something wasn't right, but there were so many other things that were right, and I had other pressure externally that I just continued in this. And when you've got that gut instinct, you have to evaluate it. I'm not saying you have to break up, but you have to pay attention to it. That little voice in your head that's like, something doesn't feel right. What is it? Try to put your finger on it. And sometimes it takes weeks or months to figure out what it is, and either decide, I can accept this and I can live with this, I can make it work, or I can't. This isn't going to be for me. There's no way that I can figure this out. It's a very personal process, and the truth is, it's very difficult to figure out. Everybody wants to know, how will I know when it's the one? Like, are there going to be like bells that go off? Am I going to be so excited? In the movies, everybody's all excited, so I'm going to be all excited. No, I've seen people, again, drag down the aisle. I've pushed down the aisle. Like, they are happy to be married. You'd think like, oh no, that's the wrong thing. For them, they were never going to get married without that nudging. They just couldn't, whether it was their thinking or something was preventing them internally. It wasn't the relationship. They just couldn't get beyond that. So it's just so hard to say exactly, what somebody needs to figure this out. It's just it's kind of like one of the mysteries of the universe, like, who is the one, and how am I going to figure this out, and who's going to help me make this decision, and how do I know that I'm making a great decision? I'm choosing somebody to live with for the rest of my life. Other than myself, I'm not living with anybody else for the rest of my life. Even if you have children, they move out, they're gone. They don't stick with you. Like, I live with me for the rest of my life, and now I'm picking, I got to live with you. Like, oh my gosh, the weight on your shoulders is so heavy. To make that decision is enormous.
It is. Why are you so, I'm not going to say obsessed, but like, you're so invested in marriage? Because I think everyone's like, you're going to get married, like, God willing, God willing. But then once you're married, you have a lot of work that you need to do in that relationship too. But why do you think that relationships are so sacred? And why do you think that as young people, we should be focusing on marriage as something that we want?
Yeah, I always tell people in a healthy way that I'm like obsessed with relationships. Like, I love relationships. I think that they're like the foundation and the fabric of the universe, right? Like, in the beginning, the world was created and it was like God and us, and now it's us with each other and with God. It's like there's whole combination of building relationships, and everywhere we go in life, whether it's business or personal, we're always in a state of building a relationship. And to me, this is the most sacred, this is the most holy. This is the most important and valuable relationship you have in your life. Again, besides the relationship that you have with yourself, this is a human being that you're going to spend potentially the most quantity of time with. And so to me, it's like, well, who do you want to become? Okay, well, who are you going to be with? You know, like, well, I'm going to become who I'm going to become, but based on who I'm with is going to influence who I will be in life. And so now I'm not just invested in a relationship, but it goes back to me, like, who am I going to be? And who I'm with is going to influence that. Oh my gosh, who am I going to choose? Like, who's good enough for me? Who makes me better? Who do I make better? And how, like, I'm going to make the world a better place, but who's going to be my partner in doing that? Who's going to best help me to do that? And so, again, I think it's just, to me, the biggest thing, I think it's the single largest decision that we make in our lives. And I am invested in seeing people make a really good decision that they can live with, because majority of people today aren't living with the decision they make. They're just bailing. They're just checking out. They're like, too hard, too much work, and not invested, picked the wrong person, made a mistake, had a gut instinct, I knew. And it's like, let's just do it better. We can do it better than that.
Amen. So I have a kind of controversial question for you. I didn't grow up super religious. My dad is Catholic. My mom is Jewish. So we grew up spiritual. And as I've gotten older, I've become more connected to Judaism. That's how I met Gabby. We have the same rabbi. So it's interesting because a lot of my friends too are secular, and a lot of them have dated non-Jewish people. What do you think about Jewish people dating non-Jews, even if all of the other boxes that they might check are in place? Maybe the religious component to that isn't. Do you feel like that's a non-negotiable? What do you think about intermarriage?
So it's totally a hot topic. I think a lot of people have tried to address this. I don't think that there's a graceful way of talking about it, because I think that Judaism has a really firm line on it. And I think that, so I'll just tell you personally, I grew up secular also. I tell people, like, I grew up Jewish. I was conservative. I loved my Judaism, but I wasn't living my Judaism in the way that I am now. And so I can see both perspectives, and we do have family that's, intermarried, and we have people within communities that are intermarried. And the challenge is that you lose your Judaism. So the question that I always ask is, what does your Judaism mean to you? And is it worth living with, and is it worth loving? Like, if you're loving your Judaism and it's an important part of who you are, how are you going to do that without a partner doing that? When I was looking to get married and I was thinking about all of my different options, even in the Jewish world, as I was becoming more observant, I was thinking, I could go either way. Like, I could be a little bit more, conservative. I could just be a little more casual about my Judaism. I could be a little bit more, I could be like Orthodox. I could do it like that. Like, what do I really want? And I thought, I want a partner who's going to do this in life with me, because I love my Judaism, and I want somebody who's going to live it with me in a way that I'm comfortable with. And it's very hard to do that when you don't have a partner who understands that, who's on board. So for some people, I've seen them get into relationships and they're like, oh, you're perfect, but like, you're just not Jewish. Like, except for that, everything's fine. But it's not except for that. It's like, that is like a huge part of your life. Family gatherings and holidays and rituals and ceremonies. And even if you're not religious, the flavor, like bagel and lox versus bagel and jelly, like,
ew,
right? But that's a thing, So
bagels and jelly.
They're good on a Tuesday, but like, if you're having like a brunch or you're having like a mitzvah meal, you want to have your bagels and lox and your schmear. Right. And that's culturally. But if we're talking about it on a deeper level, I think that anybody can get together and get married. And I think there's a lot of people that walk around and they have mates and they have partners in life. In Judaism, we believe that before you came into this world, your soul was one, your souls were split, you were sent into two bodies. So that one soul went down into two bodies, and you're searching for your soulmate. You can't find a soulmate if they don't match your soul. And I think that Judaism is that missing link that matches those soul pieces together. And if you don't have it, it's close, and it can be very close, and it can feel right, and it can feel very right, but it's not a match. Now, if somebody converts or if somebody joins the tribe, like kosher, totally fine. Like, we're not opposed to having people a part of the Jewish people, but we don't encourage that. Like, it's not like we're not missionaries and we seek that out. But in order to build that home and to have that soul mate, you have to find that other spark, that other half, and they will be, if you are Jewish, they will be Jewish. And so I would encourage people to sit with that and think with that. It's difficult to do. It's difficult to find. It's hard to manifest, but it's hard in any world. Like, I work with matchmakers who are not Jewish from different countries all over the world. Matchmaking's difficult. They say it's as hard as splitting the sea. Like, it's one of the most out of order, not natural things in the world. It feels crazy that I'm going to find somebody that actually matches who I am as a human being. And yeah, you will. And yes, it's the most difficult thing in the world, but they exist. And if you're Jewish, they will be Jewish, and you could find them.
Interesting.
It's not an easy answer though. Like, that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Based on what you just said also about, if someone's willing to convert, or what about if one parent's Jewish? Like, I know in Judaism, we look at the mother's side, but what if it's the father's side and that person does identify with being Jewish? If they're willing to convert, I guess, is that accepted, or how do you look at
that? So if we're just going by the letter of the law and following Judaism, and even Israel qualifies it like this, that it's a matrilineal lineage. So you need to follow the mother's line. If you grew up culturally Jewish, but your dad was Jewish, but not your mom, then you would still need to convert. It's a little less of a rigorous process because there's a spark of Judaism there. But they would still have to go through a formal process to be like in the tribe and counted. Yeah, it's a hot topic. It's a hot topic, and it's so difficult because it's not that anybody else is not a good person, not an amazing human being, wonderful, could be so potentially good for anybody in the world. It's not anything like that. It's just, it doesn't match on a soul level, and it can't be explained in this world.
It also plays into values, like you mentioned before. If you identify with being Jewish and you love your culture of Judaism, then you're going to want to have family events, family rituals, traditions, gatherings. And if that person doesn't match up even value-wise, it could create tension in the future, I would presume. So when we're writing these list downs of the things that we want, I'm guessing that should be in like that top 10 that you talked about.
If it's important to you. And it is different when, like, people grow up in two families. Like, we have Hanukkah and we have Christmas, or we have this. I've been told by many different therapists that whatever you do in a home, pick one. Even if it's not your Judaism, pick one for the stability of a child, because children want to identify. They want to know, who are they? And they want to have some roots in that. And it's very confusing to children to have all these options. Well, you could be anything you want to be. You could be this, you could be that. We celebrate this, we celebrate that. Wait, but who are we? It's so difficult. They don't even know who they are, and they're trying to seek out an identity. So it's really important that we choose a partner so that we can bring into the home this one. That's part of the oneness of the couple, right? There's a oneness and a unity to a couple coming together, to a family coming together, and to building the home that you want. It gives a lot of strength to the foundation of a couple and a family to be on the same page with their Judaism and their spiritual values and beliefs.
Amazing. Aleeza, is there anything else that you want young Jewish singles to know that they could be doing right now in order to attract their ideal mate?
So first of all, you have to want it. I've seen a lot of singles want a career, they want success, they want to succeed in school, whatever they want, and they go for it, and then they wake up in their mid-30s, and then they call me on the phone, and they're like, I think I missed the boat. And I was like, you did, but don't worry, we're going to find them anyway. They still exist. But we came to a point in our lives where getting married and finding that partner was not as important as earning money or getting a job or figuring ourselves out. And I think it's the other way around. Find your partner And through that process, while you're finding your partner, you'll figure yourself out. You'll earn your money. You'll get your job. You'll do all of these other things. But if you want to be a tremendous success in the world, the best way to be the greatest success is to have a fantastic partner by your side, helping you to be your best and you helping them to be your best. Because by giving to another so fully and so completely, you develop yourself to a level that you can't get to on your own. So I want to be a strong proponent of somebody who says, get married young. I've seen the couples that come together young, by the way, this, like when you're smart and young and you make a really good decision, 21, 22, 23, 25, something like that, they are phenomenal. They're like those old couples that you see together. They like look the same. They like sit like this. The other one sits like this. They sit like this. The other one sits like this. They mirror each other. They have so much fun together and they become one so much easier than older singles. And so I highly encourage finding, like, more than anything else in the world, you'll get money, you'll have a job, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. Finding a soulmate, I don't know, work on it because it's the hardest thing in the world, and do it now and find the person, like secure that person in the world. Find them.
Amen.
Amen.
I expect you to call me back and be like, Aleeza, I took your advice and I found him. We're getting married.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So how do we get a hold of you, Aleeza? Where do we find you on social media? How do we find your books, your YouTubes? I know you're all over. You've done so much.
All over. So you could find me on my website at marriagemindedmentor.com. It's totally a mouthful, but I'm going to spell it. Just marriage is spelled marriage, but minded, MINDED, mentor, MENTOR.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram also at Marriage Minded Mentor. Or if you look up my name is spelled with 2 E's, Aleeza Ben Shalom. So you could find me there. If you Google my name, you can see interviews with like NPR and BBC London and videos and all sorts of really fun things. And I would love to connect. I work with singles of all ages, all backgrounds, from all over the world. I'm always like, this is an Eastern time. Where are you? So I'm happy to work with anybody coaching one-on-one. And then I also offer dating coaching programs. So I have Daters Academy, I have Dating Detox. I have things that really help people to get ready. For the people that are like, oh, I don't want to work one-on-one, I just want to do my own thing. No problem. We've got programs. We've got everything you need. Just come check out my website and get to know us. And yeah, we'd love to help.
Amazing. Jinx. We had a great time with you, Aleeza Ben Shalom. Thank you so much for taking the time out to educate us on how to work on ourselves, what to look for in a partner, so that we can get to the altar a little bit quicker and start that family that we were meant to have. If you guys are interested in connecting with Aleeza, you heard where you can find her. You can also connect with Alie and myself at Alie V Health and Gabby Loren TV, and of course our VBWAG podcast pages. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time for Breaking Bread with Alie and Gabby. I'm Gabby Loren.
Love your 3 favorite Jewish girls. Thanks, Aleeza.
Bye.
Bye.